A story by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. Adapted by Joe Mallion and Chantal Adley and produced by Eagle Extra.
On the day before Little Red Riding Hood had set out into the woods, the woodcutter and his new wife, Ethel, had been arguing in their house on the other side of the forest.
Whilst Hansel and Gretel, the woodcutter's children,
But not Ethel's children, for she was their stepmother,
were listening from their bedroom upstairs.
This can't continue. I'm starving, and once again you come home without any bread for the table.
My love, I keep telling you there is no money, and even if I had money, there is barely any food available in the village, and the stuff that is there is just too expensive.
For you see, a famine had struck throughout the land, and many of the poor were slowly starving to death.
Why are you smiling?
Me? What? I wasn't.
Oh, there's always an excuse, isn't there, my dearest husband? It's a pity I can't eat excuses. I would be full to bursting.
I am sorry, my love.
Oh, what is to become of us? How are we to feed our poor children when we have nothing for ourselves?
Why is she so mean to Papa?
I don't know, Gretel. Maybe she's a witch. But shh, we must keep quiet, otherwise they may hear us.
And then she would turn us into a slug.
Or a cabbage.
Or a worm.
I wish she could turn you into a pie so I could eat you. I'm starving. Now shh.
Luckily for you, I have thought of a solution to our problem.
You have?
Yes. Tomorrow morning, we will take the children out quite early into the thickest part of the forest. We will light a fire and give each of them a piece of bread. Then we will go to our work and leave them alone. They won't be able to find their way back, and so we shall be rid of them.
Nay, wife, we won't do that. I could never find it in my heart to leave my poor children alone in the forest. The wild animals would soon tear them to pieces.
You are a fool. Then we must all four die of hunger. You may as well plane the boards for our coffins at once.
They argued and argued for hours. Eventually the husband gave in, saying,
Very well, but I grieve over the poor children all the same.
But Hansel and Gretel were still listening and had heard all.
All is over with us.
Be quiet, Gretel. Don't cry. I will find some way out of it.
Let us go to bed. My bones and heart are more tired than ever.
Stay here and don't make a sound and don't follow me. What can I do? There must be a way. Save us from this cruel fate. Let us live another day.
I am so scared. I need to pray for help from the Lord.
Help from the Lord.
Let us live another day.
Come on, Hansel. This is no child's play. I must find the strength.
I must find the strength.
Let us live another day.
Oh Lord in heaven, hear what I say. Guide my brother well. Let us live another day.
Our Lord in heaven, hear what we say. Guide Hansel well. Let us live another day.
Now as fortune had had it, the moon was full that night and shining brightly on the little cottage.
As if their prayers were answered, the moonlight shone on the white pebbles which were scattered all around Hansel.
And an idea sprung into his head.
As quickly and as quietly as they could, Hansel began to gather up as many of the pebbles as his pockets could take.
Once he was finished, he ran,
holding his trousers up to stop them from falling down,
back into the cottage and straight up to where he shared a room with his sister.
Take comfort, little sister, and go to sleep. God won't forsake us.
Do you promise?
I promise.
In times of doubt and times of fear, you need to keep your wits most near. Follow your brain, but trust in your heart. They will guide you through the darkest part.
This is their story, sister and brother, with loving father, but evil stepmother.
The story of Hansel and Gretel just lie. Who can say if they live or die?
Get up, you lazy bones. We're going into the forest to fetch wood.
Hansel and Gretel jumped out of bed.
Gretel was still scared, but her brother put her arm around her and said,
You must hide your fear, little sister. If Ethel notices, she will know that we know her intentions.
I will try.
Here is something for your dinner, but mind you don't eat it before, for you'll get no more.
When they had gone a little way into the forest, their father said,
Hansel, what are you stopping to look back at? Take care and put your best foot foremost.
Oh, father, I'm looking back at my white cat, who is sitting on the chimney.
Little fool, that's no cat. It's the morning sun shining on the chimney.
But of course Hansel had not been looking at the cat.
He had been dropping a pebble on the ground each time he stopped.
Oh Lord in heaven, hear what we say. Guide Hansel well. Let them live another day.
Soon they reached the middle of the forest.
Now, children, pick up some wood. I want to make a fire to warm you.
Now lie down by the fire and rest yourselves while we go and cut wood. When we have finished, we will come back to fetch you.
The hours passed, but there was no sign of the woodcutter and his wife.
Of course you can, kind sirs, and soon we will be friends. Walk, skip, or if you prefer, we'll dance till this road ends.
Oh, dearest little red, we'll skip with you wherever. Picking flowers as we go, we'll be friends forever. Be careful now, dear red, for although we are your friends, there are dark things in this wood where the grim road bears.
Heed your word, kind sirs, but I have made today dear friends like Mr. Wolf, none want me as their prey.
Oh, dearest little red, we'll skip with you wherever. Picking flowers as we go, we'll be friends. We'll be friends forever.
Hello, who are you?
Oh, hello. And hello again. My name is Little Red Riding Hood.
Hello, my name is Gretel, and this is my brother Hansel.
Nice to meet you both. But what are you doing out here by yourselves?
We are helping father find wood.
He is a woodcutter, and sometimes he lets us help him.
That sounds like fun. Would you like me to help you?
I think we have enough wood now. We are expecting father to come back any minute.
Psst, Will, why doesn't he just tell her what's really happened?
They are too proud and they still love their father. They don't want him to get into any sort of trouble.
What are you doing out in the forest?
I am on my way to my grandmother's. She lives in the forest, but she is ill, so I am taking her some cakes. And wine.
Cake? You have cake?
Yes, we baked yesterday. Look.
Oh, dear Red, we are poor children who haven't eaten real food for months. Could we please have a little piece of the cake?
Well, I'm supposed to take it all to grandmother to make her better. I suppose she wouldn't miss a little bit. I'll tell you what. Will you help me pick some more flowers for grandmother? Then I can give you some of this cake.
Picking flowers is for girls.
Stop being a fool. Don't you want some cake?
Very well, we will help, but we can't stray away from the fire.
That's okay. There are plenty of flowers nearby.
So Hansel and Gretel helped Little Red Riding Hood pick flowers for her granny in exchange for a piece of cake each.
But as is often the way in stories like this, picking flowers turned into games like hide and seek.
And tag.
And ironically, grandmother's footsteps.
The children had completely lost track of time, and very soon the sun was nearly down.
Oh my, it's nearly dark. I must be off. I still have a long journey ahead of me.
How will you find your way?
It's okay. My friends here can help me. And the moon is nearly up. It was lovely to meet you.
Goodbye, Little Red Riding Hood. I hope your granny doesn't miss the cake.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye. How shall we ever get out of this wood?
Wait a little. Red is right. The moon will soon be up, and we will soon find our way.
Hansel was right. Once the moon shone brightly above their heads, he took his little sister's hand.
And they walked on, guided by the pebbles which glittered in the moonlight, like newly coined money.
They walked the whole night, and at daybreak they found themselves back in their village.
You bad children. Why did you sleep so long in the wood? We thought you did not mean to come back any more.
My darling children, you're here. Thank the Lord. Come and give me a hug.
The woodcutter and his children were happy once more.
But it did not last. That evening the children heard Ethel once more.
We have eaten up everything again but half a loaf, and then we are at the end of everything. The children must go away. We will take them further into the forest so that they won't be able to find their way back. There is nothing else to be done.
This time, though, there were no white pebbles for Hansel to use to create a path,
And it was Gretel whose idea it was to use the breadcrumbs.
which she scattered on the floor as they were taken into the woods the next morning.
And once again, the woodcutter and his wife made Hansel and Gretel build themselves a pile of twigs and sticks.
Before abandoning them to their fate.
This time, however, the woodcutter was more upset and angrier as he and Ethel walked the path home.
How could I have let this happen? You are an evil woman, Ethel.
And you a weak husband of mine. I was a foolish woman ever to have married you.
You are a wicked woman, and I shall be wed to you no longer. Leave me now, and never shall you return to my house or harm my children. You are a witch.
It would be my uttermost pleasure to take my leave of you and your little brats.
Hansel and Gretel were once again alone in the woods.
They had waited for the moon to rise again so that they could follow the trail of breadcrumbs which Gretel had dropped the day before.
Hansel had fallen asleep.
Brother, little brother, wake up. It's time we head off.
Come then, we shall soon find our way.
But they could not find it, for whilst they had waited,
All the thousands of birds in the forest had pecked all the breadcrumbs up and eaten them.
determined to get his sister home, Hansel led her in the direction that he thought would get them back.
But it didn't. They walked the whole night and all the next day from morning till night, but they could not get out of the wood.
They were very hungry, for they had nothing to eat but a few berries which they found.
And they were so tired that their legs would not carry them any further.
But then, at midday on the second day, they saw a beautiful golden bird sitting on a tree.
And it sang so beautifully that they stood still to listen to it.
I do believe that bird wants us to follow him.
I think you're right. Come on.
They followed the bird until the sun was beginning to go down, when suddenly they spied smoke rising in the distance.
Hansel, look, it must be home.
But it wasn't home, for when they arrived at the place where they had seen the smoke, a heavenly sight awaited them.
Ugh, I hate this part. This was your idea.
It's cute, so shut up. Do you know what they found? That's right, a house made of gingerbread and sweets.
This will be something for us. We will have a good meal. I will have a piece of the roof, Gretel, and you can have a bit of the window. It will be nice and sweet.
Nibbling, nibbling like a mouse. Who's nibbling at my little house?
The wind doth blow from heaven to earth below.
Oh, dear children, who brought you here? Come in and stay with me. You will come to no harm. And she took the two children by the hand and led them into her cottage.
Where they found dinner had been laid out for them. Pancakes and sugar, milk, apples and nuts.
After this, she showed them to two little white beds into which they crept and felt as if they were in heaven.
Now, although the lady seemed so friendly to Hansel and Gretel, she was really a wicked old witch.
Who was on the watch for children wandering alone in the woods.
Why?
She's hungry.
Never. You mean she eats them?
Of course.
You see, this is why I don't like it when it's your turn to write a chapter of our stories. You're sadistic.
You love it, really. Anyway, the witch got up early in the morning before the children were awake, and when she saw them sleeping with their beautiful rosy cheeks, she murmured to herself,
They'll be dainty morsels. Get up, lazy bones. Fetch some water and cook something nice for your brother. He is in the cage over there and has to be fattened. And when he is nice and fat, I will eat him.
This girl cries too much.
Poor Gretel had to obey the witch's order. The best food was now cooked for poor Hansel, but Gretel only had the scraps.
Hansel got fatter and fatter. However, he was a clever boy, and when the witch hobbled over and said,
Hansel, put your finger out for me so I can feel how fat you are.
he would poke out a knuckle bone.
Which his sister had given him.
For you see, her eyes were dim, and she could not see, and thought it was his finger, and she was much astonished that he did not get fat.
I can't understand it. I've been feeding you for days and days, but you are still as thin as a rake. Now then, Gretel, bustle along and fetch the water. For fat or thin, I will kill Hansel and eat him. Today.
Oh, how his poor little sister grieved. As she carried the water, the tears streamed down her cheeks. What?
I'm not saying anything, dearest of brothers.
Dear God, help us. If only the wild animals in the forest had devoured us, we should, at least, have died together.
You may spare your lamentations, for they will do you no good. Now, we shall bake first. I have heated the oven and kneaded the dough. Creep in and see if it is properly heated, and then we will put the bread in.
She can't be buying that. She must know that the witch would push her in and close the door the second she stepped into.
Ah, wait a minute and you will see.
I don't know how to get in. How am I to manage it?
Stupid child! The opening is big enough. You can see that I could get into it myself.
Hansel, Hansel, we are saved. The old witch is dead.
As they had nothing more to fear, they went into the witch's bedroom and they found chests in every corner, full of pearls and precious stones.
These are better than pebbles.
I must take something home with me too.
But now we must go, so that we may get out of this enchanted wood.
Hansel and Gretel was performed by Alex Krantz as Hansel, Ella Manning as Gretel, Harriet Ramsden as Jacob, Maya Kirkwood as Wilhelm, Joshua Saunders as the woodcutter, Lydia Markham as Ethel, Sarah Allwright as the witch, and Tiffany Cadman as Little Red Riding Hood. With thanks to Bracknell Forest Youth Services for funding the project, this was a South Hill Park performance produced by Eagle Extra.